And I am here in my sewing room of doom at this moment. Okay, we need to talk about Covenant Eyes. It might be a really short conversation because I know a little bit about it, and I'm seeing it in the news right now. I'm seeing Mike Johnson, who the Republicans have picked to be the Speaker of the House. Recent, I don't care who they pick as Speaker of the House. I just wanted them to pick somebody because it's never a good idea to shut down the U.S. government for any reason because you can't agree on who the Speaker is going to be. And I didn't see anything wrong with Kevin McCarthy. I'm not real fond of Mike Johnson. I'm going to explain why. And Covenant Eyes has a large part to do with that. If you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write a column called No Longer Quivering for the whole evangelical, awful realm of quiverful, and not just quiverful, but evangelicalism, the Taco Tuesday type churches, I call them, totalitarian, authoritarian church organizations. I wrote about that for 10 years. Hey, autistic. I wrote about that for 10 plus years, and I'm writing a book right now. And I'm going to talk about the book a little bit because this story with Covenant Eyes is straight out of the book. I have a little knowledge about what's going on here. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination on Covenant Eyes, but I know enough about it to know that it is not a good idea. And I'm going to explain about that. First, let me say, don't believe it I'm talking about. Don't even fling an ugly tweet at Mike Johnson or anybody else. We don't go real life here. We think that sucks. So we just don't do that. And hit like, subscribe, click the bell notification, as they say. I hate doing that kind of stuff because as far as I'm concerned, you guys are my friends. I'm letting you into my home. I'm talking to you guys. But the real world intrudes. So I have to throw those stupid disclaimers, including the stupid disclaimer that these are my opinions, which is silly because I've been doing this a long time and watching these people a long time. 17 years ago, almost to the day, is when I left my old quiverful church behind. And I had not planned on quitting my church that day. But the guy I'm about to talk about had been running around the church talking trash about my husband leaving our church. And my daughter overheard it and started just weeping. And I saw that from the platform while I was rehearsing, and it was just like, no, talked in the hand, I'm done. So it was my love for my child over these toxic people that made me leave. So one of these toxic people that I'm talking about in my old church, and I love to call my old church Possum Creek Church, because it's similar to the name. It doesn't exist anymore. The church imploded eventually. We just left 2 or 3 years before that happened. And it wasn't a pleasant place. It started out as a sweet little Christian church that was just Bible, 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 and then it took a turn into crazy. I talked last night about how they started to believe that they could do ghost busting, and they engaged in that, and that got really weird. How they wanted to raise people from the dead. They wanted to do a bunch of different things. Sorry, because I'm here in my sunroom. My computer is on my ironing board. So this guy that talked trash and made my daughter cry, he was an interesting dude. He was a big promoter of Covenant Eyes, which is the main topic today. Covenant Eyes is basically like a net nanny service that you pay monthly for. What it does is you put it on your computer. It's a kind of VPN, as the way it was explained to me earlier today. Let me see if I can pull up those tweets and read you a little bit, because I was talking to a friend of mine about it this morning. And he is more knowledgeable about this. We're talking about this. He's talking about he would do this with me if he wasn't having to take his son into work. Okay. The scary thing to me about Covenant Eyes is not that it's looking for you looking at the naughty fun stuff. And I'm going to call it the naughty fun stuff because YouTube does not like you to use the PORN word. And that's basically what, hey, love my grands, good morning. That's what Covenant Eyes does. It makes sure you're not looking at bad stuff. But the thing is, while it's doing that, it's doing some very not so nice things. It is almost like a VPN, okay? It has the ability to intercept and log all of your privacy data. For ministries that use it, it logs everything, their entire member list, their tithing list, all their information. Covenant Eyes gets that. It's all at risk, all of it. And if you're an individual user, that might just be crap like your bank account. It could be things like not just your bank account, but say you're having some unusual conversations with people and other stuff that you may not want everybody and their brother to be able to see. Well, Covenant Eyes logs all this crap. So not only are they looking for you to make sure you don't look at the naughty stuff, they are looking at everything you do, and they are compiling the data. Like I said, to me, that is a very scary thing. And they're using the guise that they are looking for, keep you out of the naughty stuff. And the way they work is simple. You download the extension, which is an app it puts on your computer, your phone, your tablet, whatever, and it logs each and everything you do. It and it sends whoever your accountability partner is an email once a month, once a week. I don't remember how frequent it is. I haven't fooled with it in ages. I never used it, but I know a ton of people that did. Sends an email showing everywhere you've been. And if that person is your partner, you may not, there are places you may have been that maybe they don't want to, you don't want them to know about, like maybe Reddit. Maybe you're on Reddit whining in the dead bedroom column. It'll expose all of that. So clearly there's huge privacy issues. Now, if you go to Covenant Eye's own site, and I'm going to substitute the word naughty things, the phrase, for the word PORN, since we're not allowed to use it here. Let me read you their website. Their website is one of the most fear-mongering things you've seen in a long time. Struggling to quit watching naughty stuff? You're not alone. Join the 1.5 million people who've used Covenant Eyes to experience victory over naughty stuff. Quit naughty stuff for good. Try it for 30 days. Money back guarantee. Let's break the cycle. Naughty stuff creates shame. Shame fuels naughty stuff usage. Shame is the feeling that we are flawed and unworthy of love. Now, wait a minute. This is evangelical and Fundy Town's bread and butter, making you feel like you are not good enough unless you pray a certain way, dress a certain way, whatever. That's the thing that fuels them, is this same kind of shame and flawed and unworthy feelings and fear. Using naughty stuff creates shame, which isolates us, and we return to naughty stuff to cope. We call this the shame cycle. So they start with, why am I here? Choose an option below to learn more about your situation and find some proven resources to help you along your journey. I'm a man who wants to quit looking at naughty stuff. I'm a woman that wants to quit looking at naughty stuff. I want to help a friend live naughty stuff free. I want to help my spouse live naughty stuff free. I want to help my child live naughty stuff free. Defeat naughty stuff together. And it just goes on and on and on from there. That's not even the majority of the site. It's talking about partnering up to prevent naughty stuff, having life-changing conversations with your allies who will pick you up if you fall down and cheer you on when you succeed. Break bad habits for good. And it says, don't have an ally? Covenant Eyes can still help. And then there are 53,000 reviews and positive ones, supposedly, 4.5 stars. And people saying that it helps them in their desire to honor God. Okay, $17 a month, 30-day money-back guarantee. And it says, if you're a pastor or a church leader, we offer free resources and personalized coaching to help your people find freedom from naughty stuff. They don't tell you that to download this on your church computers exposes all your information. It's actually, you're paying for a data breach is what you're paying for. So you better hope that Covenant Eyes doesn't decide to double down and use this information for bad, which it could. It could easily do that. It's been around for a long time. Okay. Covenant Eyes is kind of an outgrowth of the purity culture. Purity culture and evangelicalism, it says that men are animals, they're beasts, that they cannot be controlled by a little tiny bit of cleavage. I mean, they can be controlled with a tiny bit of cleavage. They can be controlled by seeing somebody's rear end through a pair of leggings, much less the hardcore naughty stuff. Okay. That men can't control themselves. They are ruled by their sexuality, that they're no better than beasts. And that women gatekeep. Their role in society is to gatekeep to make sure that men do not commit the R word. And they do that supposedly by dressing modestly and supporting their brothers and being their accountability partners for Covenant Eyes. So that puts the entire onus of male sexuality on women. And women have enough trouble with female sexuality, especially in these types of churches where they teach that any expression of sexuality that is not man on top, missionary position in the dark is sinful. And like we know, there's infinite different types of stars and clouds and things. There's also infinite ways to do the nasty, and church does not account for any of that. And I laugh because I personally don't have a problem with porn if there's consent, if there's enthusiastic engaging in it, and if there's not drugs. Some women find porn freeing. I personally do not, but a lot of women do. They love it. And that's fine. It's all where you decide it has what role it will play in your life and how you think about it. Now, that's one thing that you can say that evangelical Christian women and feminists are mostly united in, their dislike of the naughty stuff that you see online. So this is a much more huge problem in these very religious communities, and not just Christian, but worldwide. Pornhub releases figures and facts every year about where their users come from. And their biggest usages are always in areas with fundamentalist religion. It just seems to be a correlation that fundamentalist religion will use naughty stuff a lot more, and that there's a whole lot higher use of depression drugs, and there's higher rates of divorce. I've been tracking that for years, working for No Longer Quivering, and it's true. So something is going on here, and it's kind of squishy, weird, and wrong. That's where Mike Johnson comes in, the squishy, weird, and wrong today. This is why we're having conversations about Covenant Eyes. Well, I got up this morning and it was trending on Twitter. Covenant Eyes is something that Mike Johnson uses to keep himself naughty thing free. And his son uses it, and they're each other's accountability partner. Hey, that's great if you don't mind having all your information in the hands of a tech company. And let's not lie about this. Covenant Eyes is now a tech company. Even though they like to say it is purely a ministry. So Mike Johnson was bragging the other day. I had Diet Coke yet. I'll tell you what my morning's been like. You'll either laugh or cry. And you see why I'm having lots of Diet Coke this morning. Um, so he's been talking about this a lot. Mike Johnson scares me because he is just like every other evangelical, quiverful, taco church going guy I've ever laid eyes on. Just like them. So I know where he's coming from. He's no different than Mike Pence, except that he runs his mouth a little more about his faith than Mike Pence does. I'm sure Mike Pence has covenant eyes on all of his devices, too. So I have to tell my covenant eyes story, okay? And there was a guy at our church, and like I said, it was the same guy that was pretty much caused us to leave, my kids and I to leave, when he made my daughter cry. We were there a long time. And at one point, let me back up. This guy, I'm going to call him Ned, from Ned Flanders, because when he wasn't running around smoking pot, drinking, bar hopping, cheating on his wife, he acted like Ned Flanders. And when he was having a semi-permanent leave of his senses and he would leave his wife, he would do all the stuff. And then it would be this, it turned into this, I don't want to say ritual, but it was kind of like when the swallows returned to Capistrano in California. It was something that was like annual. You could count on. You could count on Ned losing his mind and jumping off the deep end into sin, or what the church calls sin. And I was really good friends with his wife for a long, long time, until I finally just had to step away because there was way too much crazy going on there that I couldn't deal with. That I just was like, no, talk to the head. And she couldn't understand why I ended our friendship. Well, I just could not cope anymore with the situation. When you try to help someone and they tell you, oh, no, 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 this is my husband. I will always take him back. I love him. I want to be with him. And he's doing this stuff. And you're like, this is an annual event with him. You need to leave him. Oh, no, 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 no. God told us to get married. So when you talk to them both, God told her to marry him and she convinced him. And I don't think there was a lot of love going on either side. I could be wrong, but that is how I remember the tale. If there wasn't much love, there was a whole lot of, oh, God told me to marry you. So old Ned comes back from one of his lost weekends that takes 6 months and angrily announces to church that he is setting up a new business to prevent guys from looking at the naughty stuff. He sat around and ran to email. He stood up and talked about it once in church. He stood up and talked about it on a Wednesday night prayer meeting. And I just observed this and was shaking my head and going, oh, heck no. What his business was is he was going to download Covenant Eyes on all of your devices, your smartphone. I don't think we had tablets in your smartphone and your computer. And he would be your accountability partner. Now, who is his accountability partner? Nobody. So you get that right. This guy who everybody knows struggles with the naughty stuff, because every prayer meeting that he wasn't running off on his lost weekends, he was face down on the floor in front of the altar screaming about his naughty stuff addiction. He talked about in men's group. He talked about it in prayer groups. He talked about it in, we used to have area Bible studies. He talked about it all the time. So now he's angrily demanding to be the person who monitors your naughty stuff usage. And I remember the time, my cynical self, I turned to my husband and I said, is he trolling for new sites? Is that what's going on here? Is he trolling for new sites? Because I can't see any other reason why he would be doing this. So for the munificent sum of like $30 a month, he was going to do this for you. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if anybody signed up for it or not. I'm thinking that very few people did because everybody knew that he struggled with naughty stuff. But he was just arrogant enough to think that everybody was going to trust him with their information and go into the naughty stuff. The last I heard, he was off on another lost weekend. I don't know if he's ever come back. I think he probably has at this point because it's pretty bad. Like I said, the annual thing. And I don't wish him any ill will. I don't want to be anywhere near him anymore because he was kind of creepy in his own weird way. And before I even knew him, I had people telling me how creepy he was and how I should avoid him and his wife. Him and his wife would prey upon the newer people coming in the church and would do the love bombing and bring them in and say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to hang out, we're going to play games, we're going to watch movies, we're going to do this. And they got a fair amount of people who were new to the church to do that with them, ourselves included. That's how I got to know them so well. And one time it turned into a real problem because there were 4 couples that were friends that were hanging out together. Us, Ned and Maud, another couple I'm going to call Alice and Sam, and then my friend Kathy and her husband Mike. Okay. Kathy was a little ludicrous too. She was a little nutty. She struggled with mental illness. I'm convinced now it was something like undiagnosed schizophrenia or something. She had something going on that wasn't quite right. You could just tell. She was always cheating on Mike. When Kathy and I first started being friends, I had no idea she had committed multiple adulteries, but she had, and she still was. Sam and Alice were new to the church, and I didn't know anything about them. Later, I found out that Alice had committed many, 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 many adulteries, and that Sam was kind of a sad sack. So Kathy and Mike were not quiverful. They only had 2 children. They came to the whole quiverful movement well after they were going to be able to have any children. Sam and Alice were younger, and they had like 7 or 8 kids at that point already. So Alice and I, you would have thought we would have been good friends because Alice was studying what I'd studied in college, art. But no, the first time Alice borrowed my book on Tiffany glass and returned it with the pages all spotted and wrinkly and things, I was pretty livid because it cost me a pretty penny at the Smithsonian. It was a large, lavishly illustrated book about Tiffany, Louis Comfort Tiffany stained glass. And at the time, I was dabbling in stained glass for my critical care. Pulmo made me give it up, so you don't need to be breathing lead fumes with your problems. So there was that. But Alice, I never could warm to her. Every time I was around Alice, I would get that lost in space robot that was flapping his dryer arms going, danger, danger, Will Robinson. Danger, danger, Suzanne. So I never really became close to her. Sam and Alice took swing dancing lessons. And sometimes when all 4 couples would get together, they would demonstrate their dancing. They'd put on some music and they would be doing their jitterbug and whatever. And it was interesting to watch, for sure. And it was a bit different than everybody and everything we knew from church. And for me, I had taken ballet and then many years later, belly dancing. So my dancing scope was limited, very limited to what I knew how to do. So we would watch. And one time I noticed that some of the guys were watching. Alice was demonstrating some step on her own, and some of the guys were watching with some lust in their eyeballs. I was watching this, and you could see the looks on their faces. But this is a group of guys that, if they weren't looking at the hardcore naughty stuff, then the most they would have seen was somebody's shin. So they're watching Alice, cute little Alice, short, skinny as a rod, blonde hair Alice wiggling around, making everything jiggle. And a couple of guys are looking with some serious eyes. They're like, I talked to my husband about it later. I said, I am not comfortable with that at all because was going through and said, oh, no, Alice was just demonstrating. I didn't notice that, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, okay. Then it came out. I had to go down to Louisiana because my father died. And I left my kids back in Virginia with friends because my family, my crazy family in Louisiana, I didn't know what I was going into. Okay. I didn't know if it was going to be what it was going to be like. And my father has enough people on his side of the family that are irrational. He used to call his sisters crazy and almost crazy is a nickname. So that'll tell you something. So I knew it was going to be a crap show, and it was. It was awful. I got called a ghoul for sitting there when my father was dying and holding his hand. All kinds of things went down. So I was, hey, Grace Peter. So I was very, very, very happy that I didn't bring my kids. But when I came back, I realized there was some weirdness going on. The couples weren't getting together anymore. Ned was talking angry crap again. Like example, one Sunday at church, shortly after my father died and I returned, Kathy and Alice were hanging out together, and they left church in the middle of the day and ran off in Kathy's truck, leaving Mike, leaving Sam. And they were always together, the two of them. And sometimes you'd even see them arguing and clashing, but they were always together, and they cut me out. Okay. I had no more friendship with either one of them. Only one I had left was poor old Maud Flanders. Poor old in the dark Maud Flanders with her angry Ned. Okay. And we had Mike and Sam. And Sam was whining and acting like something was going on. Something was going on. Here's what was going on. And I discovered this weeks later. Alice and Ned were having an affair. Okay. And the only reason that I discovered that Ned and Alice were having an affair is because Alice's husband came to me one day and said, one Sunday, and said, oh, that was really nice of you to gift Alice a ticket to see the Vermeer exhibition at the Smithsonian. I said, I don't know what you're talking about, Sam. And he started to explain to me that Alice had gone away the previous weekend and had said that I had gifted her a ticket and we had stayed at the Willard. Now, the Willard Hotel is a fancy schmancy place in D.C. At one point, the Willard was booking, it was slow season in D.C., was doing a 2-night stay, and they would give you tickets to the exhibit, which was hard to get and expensive. So she had told him the fib that her and I had gone to the city for the weekend, and we'd gone to see the Vermeer exhibit. There was just one problem. I didn't know anything about it. I definitely was not at the Willard. I would have loved to have gone to the Willard and then gone to the exhibition. But sadly, no. So later, the same Sunday, Maud Flanders comes to me and says, thank you for gifting Ned, blah, blah, blah. Same story. It's like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I was not at the Willard. I didn't go to the Vermeer exhibit. I don't know what you're talking about. So I found out later that same day that the frolicking fornicators had used my name for their spouses and said they were with me. Okay. And we were just going to an art exhibit. And in the meantime, Kathy was having an affair with some local yokel that cuts wood and sells it to tourists for inflated prices. So she was having an affair. Alice and Ned were having an affair. And that was just in my little circle of the 4 couples. For us, we quit hanging out with all these people. We pretty much just clicked that off. We had to because it was just too toxic all the time. And Alice still swore she had not committed adultery, that I was wrong. There was no adultery going on whatsoever. While Ned was saying, oh, yes, I was with her all weekend. I love her. We're together. We're soulmates. We're going to get married and all this other nonsense. And I was just like, oy vey. And I'm not even Jewish. So there you go. It didn't work out well for anybody. My friend Kathy was one of those women that refused to go get yearly exams. She didn't get pap smears. She didn't get uh, the boob feeling. She didn't get any of that done. She wouldn't even go in for a regular physical. So guess what happened? She started having headaches, ended up in the ER one day, and they told her after doing a little examination that she had uterine cancer that had spread to her brain. So she'd had it for a long time. They gave her 2 weeks to live, 2 weeks, in which she spent that 2 weeks going from ministry to ministry to ministry, like Bethel Redding, trying to get healed, trying to get completely healed of this stuff, and it didn't work. She ended up dying in horrible pain after having wasted the last 2 weeks of her life. Sam and Alice divorced. Sam remarried. Him and his new wife have had problems too, I understand. Alice, lucky Alice, ended up marrying a wealthy professor at a private university and somehow managed to finally complete her PhD so that she could also have a professorship. I gotta get another drink of this. I'm starting to run out of steam. Beloved caffeine. Thank you, caffeine, for doing your job. So Alice had married this professor, and I didn't hear anything more of her until he started running for Congress. I think it was running for, yeah, for our district was running for Congress. And I saw Alice at one time at a campaign rally, and she came rushing up and said, "Don't tell anybody about my past." And I'm like, why would I tell anybody about your past? I don't do that crap, even though I'm doing it now, but with different names and circumstances. So I didn't tell anybody during the campaign. He lost anyway. He lost to another professor at the same university running for the same seat. He lost to conservative. He was a liberal. So there you go. Ned and Maud are still married. They're still experiencing these lost weekend episodes of Ned's where he's taken off. He's doing it less and less now. And all of his children have grown up and left the house. They've done pretty well for themselves. They've all turned into fine individuals for people who were raised in the depths of dysfunction. I mean, that's one thing I know that I've learned through the years. If you're raised in these families where there is extreme dysfunction going on, one of two things happens. Either you do this exact same things, you live in that same dysfunction yourself, or you decide, oh, no, 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 I'm not doing that. And you don't, you change extremely. Those boys did. One of them was a lawyer. He went to UVA on a scholarship and did quite well. All those boys were smart. I always liked them. They were little devils, though. And they're doing well. Ned and Maud, not so much. Maud had MS, and it just got worse and worse. My understanding now is she's in a wheelchair. The last time I talked to Ned was at a conference. We went to a conference at a Fourth Square church to see, why am I being distracted by motorcycle noise? See me riding out there. He's too old to be riding this motorcycle. So I saw Ned at this conference. We were watching, I want to say Todd Bentley, but that was not it. This guy is the anti Todd Bentley. It would be, what is that guy's name? I swear, senior moments are the worst. Your mind that used to work like a steel trap no longer works like a steel trap. It works more like a rickety old car that you're praying will get you across the street. Not Todd Bentley. What is that guy's name? He sang a lot of songs that were really controversial in the church as a musician. He did one called Freedom that I always like, that plays a lot of violin music in it. I'm telling you, Pharaoh, let God's people go. That was like the chorus of it. But anyway, we went to see that guy, and I saw Ned there, and I was pretty angry at Ned still because he made my daughter cry. And we left our church because of all what was going down with Ned harassing us. I saw Ned and I had kind of like a supernatural reaction to him and hugged him and told him I forgave him for everything. And I have. And Ned was like a guy who had been humbled by so many things. He told me that his wife was worse, much worse, including worse than here, and that not to listen to too much of what was coming out of her mouth. He just was having to care for her. I mean, like a nurse. So my understanding is since he's had to care for her like that, he hasn't had any more Lost Weekend type episodes. And I'm glad. I'm glad for her sake, if nothing else, because that would be the worst to deal with. And that's a sad fact, I hate to say, not just in fundamentalism, but in across all spectrums of society in America, is if you end up with a really bad chronic ailment like MS, sometimes men bolt, they flee the marriage because they can't handle the illness aspect of it, which is really sad. Okay, you guys, I am definitely going to go. I've told you guys all about Covenant Eyes. It's kind of funny every time I hear that stupid name, Covenant Eyes. I think about this stupid song from the 1960s called Judy in Disguise, and I always want to sing Covenant Eyes, spying on my info. Yeah, so, and to start singing the stupid song, coming up with different lyrics. Like I said, they spy on your info, most definitely. Now, whether they'll do anything with it, that's a whole different ballgame, but I wonder how secure their security is, because if nothing else is true in this digital world, we have seen so many breaches of security. Shoot, Blue Cross Blue Shield had one 4 or 5 years ago and released everybody's information. They're all over the place. Costa Rican government had one where they had to kick out all the applications for residency because the information was all compromised. So I worry about that. I guess I just think too hard about this dumb stuff. And I got to tell you real quick about my morning. This is actually a highlight. I got up this morning, made coffee, walked in here, lost my grip on my cup, and it went all over a pile of quilting stuff I'm working on right now. So I had to stop and wash quilt batting. I had to wash backing, all kinds of things. I was mad. And I don't know what's going on with me today. I'm falling down. I'm not doing so well. So like I said, I've fallen down. I accidentally lost my grip on a cup of deodorant. Not deodorant, of detergent, and spilled it all over the floor in the laundry rooms. It's been like this free-floating bunch of nonsense all damn day. And I don't know what else to do with this day except I'm having lunch with a friend. And then she's supposed to be coming back here to swim, but I'm looking right now and it is dark out there. It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock dark with clouds. So I don't know that the swimming is going to take place, but I'm definitely going to go just sit in the hot tub for a long spell today. And I think I'm going to lay in the bed and read. My poor body is not doing what it should. And I'm sitting here thinking about all this nonsense again about Covenant Eyes. So if I were you, I would think twice about using Covenant Eyes because if nothing else for the whole creepy having your stuff aspect just kind of creeps me out. I don't know what the answer is to preventing weak, whiny little men in the church from developing the kind of fortitude to fight looking at the naughty stuff. There are organizations that will help you with that too, that don't spy on your computer. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having accountability partners that you talk about with this stuff and say, how you doing? There's no problem with joining a group. It's just, like I said, my problem is with the company having so much of your information. Okay, you guys, I am going to go. Thank you for watching. Love you guys. You have a great day. I'm going back to bed for a while, I think. I'm going to go back to bed and I'm going to get in the hot tub. That sounds like a plan, huh?